Time count. This is something that we do every year, and every community across the country completes a point-in-time count about this last week of January. It allows us to collect data to really understand how our community is changing, but I want you to also understand that our service providers and the Community Shelter Board and everybody who cares about those who are most vulnerable, we are collecting data all throughout the year, and the point-in-time count is one specific way in which we more fully understand what is happening. We know Columbus is growing. You can go all over Central Ohio and see the evidence of that, and even if the rate of homelessness stayed the same, it will grow because we're in a growing city. But because we're not building enough housing, because housing costs are rising so quickly, what you're about to learn from Shannon Isom with the Community Shelter Board is that homelessness last year went up 6 times faster than what the population growth was of Franklin County last year. So before I turn it over to Shannon, I'd like to recognize some people in the room. Any member of the Continuum of Care, would you please stand, as well as CSB staff, and be recognized for your service to this work? Thank you very much. And if there are any service providers in the room, would you please also stand and be recognized? Thank you for your service. And lastly, any volunteers, and I don't know if there's any elected officials in the room beyond Council President Shannon Hardin. If there are, please stand, and we would like to recognize you. All right. So with that, I want to thank the incredibly talented and gifted and hardworking staff at the Community Shelter Board. And I just have to say, Shannon, we are thankful as a community to have you as a leader, because you inspire, you educate, you inform, and you've created a vision for the future of this community. And I am so delighted to serve on the COC under your leadership and the incredible service of the Community Shelter Board. And so with that, Shannon, please share with us the data.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you for everyone who continues to pour into this community around this effort. The Continuum of Care Board is really, and the membership of that Continuum of Care is really reflective of the diversity, not only of the issues, but of the communities in which we serve. The Community Shelter Board is almost 40 years old, and there was a vision that we needed to have something in place that held space specifically for communities and our residents that were moving through any level of destabilization of housing. And as important as it was 40 years ago, we know that now this is our central issue. And so for the foresight of those business leaders to come together with our public leaders, as well as with our private dollars. Thank goodness that we as a community stand together and collectively to be able to answer to this issue. So what is really important about the point-in-time count? And again, appreciating that everyone is here. And Michael said this. We do this every year, and we do this in concert with every single solitary continuum of care across this country. And so I like to note that we all take a pause together, different days, but the exact same month, to really take account of our most vulnerable of homelessness, those people that are on the land. And HUD will tell you that this must be done, must be counted in places that are inhabitable for humans. And so as we move through this data, we're going to places that the government, the federal, our federal North Star says it is uninhabitable for humans to live. And we count. And the counting specifically, not only because we're doing it in concert, is taking a pause. The counting specifically tells us, are we getting it right all year? This isn't about a one-day. Are we getting it right all year? Are our strategies aligned? Are we aligned with the right partners, the right service people? Or is there something that needs to be adjusted? And so I'm not using this as a tool of just to note what our data is, but what we're doing with this tool is taking it back with our partners. We're taking it back with anecdotal data, with people who have lived experience to say, how do we right-align our strategy so that next year you all will sit in the seats and saying, oh gosh, we're on the right track. So as I then move through this data, I want you to look at it and think about it, especially for those, more than half the room stood up, that are touching this to say, what else? We need to hear from you. We need to hear from you. So key highlights from the 2025 count are this: 2,556 people experienced homelessness, 7.4% increase over last year. Last year, if you all remember, we only had about a 1.7% increase over the year prior, which was higher than the previous year, which was at 24% increase, which, because we are adding to that very high 24% increase, we are still in the trend line of seeing the worst homelessness year after year after year that we've ever seen. 2,101 total unsheltered persons are staying in shelter or any level of transitional housing, which federally is considered shelter. That's a 13% increase from over last year. 455 individuals are living outside, are living in spaces that are not meant for habitation. That's 11% decrease than what we had from last year, and 95% increase in people utilizing our winter warming centers and our non-congregate shelters. Before I move into the demographics, one thing that I want to note is that we're expecting, from predictive modeling, we're expecting that unsheltered homelessness will continue to increase year after year. And so what you'll see is the data shows that. What we're trying to ensure is that our strategies are mitigating that growth. So what we don't want to have from the predictive modeling is to continue on a trend where that growth becomes so acute that we lose control of being able to solve for, a cure for homelessness. So the increase, we know year over year we're going to have it. Still evaluating if that 7.4% is in the model of an overall increase, what we're expecting by 2028 of a 16% increase overall in homelessness. What I want to note, though, which is success, is that 11% decrease in unsheltered homelessness is against the trend of what we thought we were predicted to see within this community. That's good news. As awful as it is, that's good news, because what it's telling us is that we potentially have some strategies, some tools that are working in concert to mitigate the growth. The winter warming centers, and you'll hear from one of our key integral leaders within that space, has alone moved with community, moved with faith leaders, not only to take people in the coldest of our months, but to make sure that they found employment and found housing. And we know that when community comes together, not just shelter systems, but when community comes together, when philanthropy comes together, when benevolence comes together, that we start healing. And I think these are the numbers that bear that. So let's move into some of our key trends. We had a 21% decrease in what we saw. This is self-identified of severe mental illness. We saw 1.8% decrease in chronic homelessness, 31% decrease in survivors of domestic violence experiencing homelessness. Again, this is a point in time, but self-identified. We're seeing these decreases. 9% decrease in families experiencing homelessness with a slight rise in families on the land. You hear more about that. And then 7% increase in veteran homelessness. So we don't want to lose the battle of making sure that veterans are housed. So that's an indicator for us. So while progress has been made, and it has, and we have a small inkling that we're on the right track, there's still some key areas that are at risk. And so from a community perspective, I want us to continue to stay focused, that we have some resources federally that are running out, including the Emergency Rental Assistance Fund Eviction rates are still at their highest and continue to rise within this community. All of those, both of those, but more of those things are counterforces to this work. And so we're keeping an eye on that. One of the things I want to note before I ask Jasmine to come up and speak to us about the winter warming centers is that we are seeing, when we see families increasing on the land, that is a pause for us. Because we have a really strong, what I believe, and our partners are out there, we have a really strong response system for families. I have to note that when the third party came in, one of the positive things they said about our community, many positive, but one of the positive things is that other communities, you'll see children in unsheltered spaces. You'll see children with their families when they're unsheltered. We've made a commitment years ago that you will never see a child unsheltered here. Never. We have a response that is readied to move very quickly to make sure children are not on the land, and yet we're seeing a slight increase with that. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. We're going to keep our eyes on that one. So let me ask Jasmine Franklin to come up and speak a little bit about what for us is one of the most positive strategies that we have, which is the Winter Warming Center. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk briefly about the Winter Warming Center. The benefits of it for me is because it's a great area that we work out of. It's only open from December 1st to March 31st. It's important because it's not like a traditional shelter. It's important because the great area that we work out of, we're able to stay open longer. We don't have to have a shut doors per se. During the morning time, people don't have to leave. We're able to work more closely with them at a smaller group of people. So it's really important for the winter warming centers. You're able to deal with people on a level of less than 100. That's fine. You're able to deal with people on more of a lesser population compared to hundreds to 200s of people. So I want to take a couple minutes and tell my story. I've experienced homelessness. I'm from a small town of Chillicothe, Ohio, moved to Columbus, was working at a job. At the time, I had 2 of my younger kids with me, and I lost my job. It shut down, actually, so I lost my job. So I had to go into one of the shelters, long-term shelters. And as I was there, it took a while for me to see a case manager, a couple other things, and I was just like going with the flow because I was new to it, never experienced homelessness before. What I noticed was that you had to get up in the morning and be gone by 6 a.m. Where am I going if I'm already homeless? So years go by, and I'm working for a nonprofit, and it ended up being the job that changed my life. So it ended up being a pilot, the first pilot that Columbus did, and it was from December 1st to March 31st, and I was the director at the time. And it ended up closing early over unforeseen events, and when it closed, I met Council President Shannon Hardin. He came up there and he talked to me, and he was like, Jasmine, what's next for you? And I was like, just go get a job. I don't know, just go get a job. And his words changed my life, really, because he said, would you ever consider opening your own? And when I stood back, he didn't know me, I didn't know him. I just knew, like, president's coming, it's a big deal. So I went home, and, I've been in this field for 14 years of being in case management and shelter work, let alone being homeless. So I went home, and it took me like a week, you guys, and I put it together, and I executed it. I sat back, and I thought, what would I change different if I opened up a shelter? What would I do? The first thing would be, well, I'm going to make sure people don't have to leave in the morning, because I remember that. The second thing would be case management. How would that change? Very quickly, case management, right? So I formed Third Shift Warming Cooling Center. The name came from something very special to me. When they did that pilot that season, my third shift team from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., they stayed in the first shift. They stayed in the second shift, so we never went home. And that's where I got the inspiration to call it Third Shift. And so when I opened up my own, it was now, I presented it to the Community Shelter Board. They supported me 110%, which is why I'm even able to stand here today. And now I opened it up. I service men, women, and animals. And when you come in, you don't have to leave in the morning. You don't have to get up at 6 a.m. and leave. You could stay, right? On top of that, when you wake up in the morning, I have case managers to see you as soon as possible to see what the barriers are, and let's get to work right now, right? Even though it's only 4 months, I've kind of tried to master how can we assist people and change their lives within 4 months. And the main thing for me that's focusing on is getting them back to their families quicker than trying to get housing, because not everybody just qualifies for housing, but it's about let's getting them back to their families. Let's initiate that conversation. Let me be present and see what I can do to help you get back to your family. What barrier was that? What stopped that? Let me see what I can do. And this season, it turned out pretty good, I feel like. I know if we had more time, we can help more and deal with them more personally, right? So I feel like that's a big deal to me. I like to be boots on the ground because I like to come back and tell true stories. I don't want to tell you a story that happened 2 years ago. I want to tell you what happened 2 days ago. And that's really what inspires me. You know, when you talk about what you love to do and what you face every day, you can speak from your heart. You don't have to you can just speak. And if it wasn't for Council President Shannon Hardin give me that sentence to me, I probably wouldn't be here, right? On top of the Community Shelter Board, Shannon, Isom supporting, this is what the community needs. This is what we all need, Steve, as well. It's a support, and I just appreciate it. So now I want to introduce President Shannon Hardin.
I feel like that was a setup. I'm following Shannon Isom, who's a prolific speaker, and then I'm following Jasmine, who is a prolific person and human being who turned her personal journey and pain into amazing service to our community. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Seeing when Shannon asked who is in the room, it is the folks who are servicing our community. And so I just want to say thank you, a sincere thank you to each and every one of you. I also want to thank Mike Wilkos, because I think that it's really important for us not to disconnect this homelessness from the root cause, which is we don't have enough housing in Central Ohio. We don't have enough housing in Central Ohio. And we have to all be united, stacking hands for that solution as we move forward. The reason I'm here is because I went out to thank folks in that cold January morning for going out and doing the point-in-time count. And it's really important that we don't look at the point-in-time count as just a head count, but it is a time for us to reflect on who we are as a community, where we are as a community, and where we are going as a community when we think about our unhoused residents. And it really is about putting up a mirror to us and seeing how and where and what we were willing to do to take care of our residents. And so I'm very grateful for the work that we've been able to do with Shannon Isom and the Shelter Board. I'm grateful for the work that is happening each day. I'm grateful for council. Over the past few years, City Council has supported the creation of the warming centers that Jasmine talked about across our region. And these centers are more than just places to escape the cold. They are warm, safe spaces for our unsheltered neighbors. They offer low barrier options for those who may not feel comfortable in traditional shelters. And this past winter, when I visited several of these warming centers, including the Third Shift Warming Center led by Jasmine, you see this. You see community, you see people coming in and getting help. Even 2 weeks ago, over breakfast at Third Shift, I sat with 3 of our neighbors that are unhoused. And one man shared that mental health challenges made traditional shelters overwhelming. He had been sleeping on the church steps until he found refuge at the warming center. There, he felt welcomed and connected to critical mental health services. These are the kinds of stories that remind us why this work matters. And I'm proud that City Council has stood behind warming centers like these, ensuring our residents have had a place to turn to when the nights are cold. And this past year, we expanded our commitment. We introduced new innovative strategies, including nonprofit-led transportation, to make these spaces even more accessible. The recent point-in-time count shows that more shows some encouraging signs. We're breaking through in some areas. Warming centers are having some impact. Through the Homeless Prevention Network, the city used emergency rental assistance to take an upstream approach, helping families stay housed before they ever fall into homelessness. These strategies are responses to the growing pressures we face of rapid population growth, of skyrocketing housing costs, and the loss of federal support. And I think this is the important part, because I think that Shannon and the Shelter Board has done a good job of telling us what comes next. We don't have to speculate, y'all. There's no speculation in what the next 5 or 10 years looks like in our community. These things of a growing city without not enough housing will mean more of our residents will be unhoused, which means that as we become a bigger city, we must be a bolder city when we think about our unhoused residents. It means that as we are having big conversations about who we are and who we want to be, we must make the investments. When I talk to the council president of Austin, who is 10 years ahead of us in terms of growth, who really thinks that their unhoused problem is unsolvable. She says, yours is big and getting bigger, but you still have an opportunity if you lean in now. If you lean in now. And so I'm here as city council president, and I'm here as a Columbus kid to say that these are our people, and that this is the time to make the big investments, find the funding, the sustainable funding, to meet and match the problem that is in front of us. Because at the end of the day, we have the ability, we have the capacity, and we have the care and the heart and the people and the right network. The system itself is working. It's just we have to support it at the level to make it serve all of our residents. And so I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you, to the providers, to the Shelter Board, and certainly to our fearless leader, Shannon Isom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Put this back up here. So as we close, please feel free to spend some time within the report. Please feel free to take it back to your places, to your agencies, but also I know there's volunteers here. Take it back to those folks that think about this all the time, because we're here thinking about this all the time. I will tell you, since I've been here, I get lots of feedback. And sometimes that feedback feels a little heavy, but I will tell you that without it, it would be a void in being able to do the work. So I'm leaning on you as you are leaning on me to please let us know where we're not looking, what else is out there. As Jasmine connected with us, as faith leaders continue to connect with us, this being one of the churches, they're stepping up and saying, hey, we have homelessness here, or hey, you're not looking at this there. That's important to us. I'm supposed to now give you a call to action. There's lots of things that we're going to commit to. So the call to action is, first, keep us accountable. Believe that we can do this, because I do. I believe that this is solvable. Know that this is not broken yet. We're bent, and it can be straightened. Know that if you have any touches with any resources when it comes to the dimensionality of housing, that's where we should be concentrating. And you will hear from the Community Shelter Board that believes that shelter isn't housing, but housing is shelter, that housing is becoming and will be our #1 priority. That means that I want to walk alongside developers and thinkers and creatives. I want to walk alongside people who know hotels and motels. I want to walk alongside community who says, yes, in my backyard, we believe strongly we have the resources, the tenacity to take care of our community members. That's my call. As we meet again next year, in between that time, what I am asking is that every single solitary city walks alongside this regional response to homelessness. And this becomes a collective effort, stacking hands. This is not a city issue. This is a regional and a county issue. In fact, let me tell you how proximal it is that other counties are looking at us and saying, how are you doing it? That means that we have to hold the space that we're leading in this. We have enough, plenty to do, but we know how to address this issue with community. So until next year, thank you, and I will be open to answer any questions.
Yeah, don't worry.